What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist, Josh Cribbs. I want to welcome you to the MAC Sports Connection podcast, where Alex hosts all things MAC, all things football, all things sports, right here, MAC Sports Connection, baby. The Mid-American Conference best, bringing it only the greats, MAC, to everyone.
All right, everybody, welcome back to MAC Media Day here in Canton, Ohio at the NFL Hall of Fame. Alex, the captain from the MAC Sports Connection podcast, and this time around I'm joined with Coach Pete Lembo. This is your second stint in the MAC, this time with Buffalo. How does it feel to be back in the league?
It's back to the future for me. It's great to be back. So many good people in this conference, starting with John Steinbrecher at the top. What a wonderful job he does leading every year, and just a great representative of college athletics in general. And then there have been a lot of changes. There's certainly been a ton of changes in college athletics since the last time I was a head coach. This last 3 years have been interesting and turbulent and somewhat radical compared to my first 29, but good in a lot of ways too. But you know, it's great to be back, and I've always thought so highly of this league and the coaching and the quality of the student athletes and the parity in the league, and so it's exciting to be back, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be at Buffalo. It's a great school academically, it's a great area, a lot of really wonderful people that have welcomed me and our staff. Our players have embraced the transition, and it's going really well so far.
That's awesome. So obviously a new team, new program, new conference, everything from where you were at with South Carolina. Buffalo they've lost a step the last couple years. You know, talk about the skill position guys on the offensive side, guys that you've brought in, guys that have come in from the portal, guys that you're training now. Who stood out to you the most just as we get ready to get into this new season?
Yeah, well, if you want to talk specifically coming out of spring ball, I would say in the receiving position, Nick McMillan had a very good spring, and a young man named Taji Johnson that came over from Boston College, whose mom's actually a UB alum, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
So he's got a really cool connection to the university. I think tight end is a really strong position on the team, and Jake Orlando, who's a fifth-year senior, great guy, and had a really good spring. Our tailback room, our running back room is diverse. We've got different shapes and sizes back there, pretty good depth in that room, and Al-J Henderson probably stood out the most in the spring, but I think there's going to be really good competition there. Our offensive line has got a lot of snaps under their belt, and we're going to rely on them some from a leadership standpoint. And then, of course, the big question mark is quarterback. And, you know, we're just as anxious as everybody else to figure out who our starter is going to be. We did move Mike DePillo from quarterback to tight end following spring ball, and he's embraced that move. And that also brings a little bit more clarity there because, you know, we've got a few less reps to spread around during preseason camp. We did bring in Jack Shields from Old Dominion as a transfer, who was the backup at Old Dominion last year, played a lot of snaps there. So we'll just have to see how things play out. And Dave Patnode, our offensive coordinator, he's going to have a big decision to make here as we move through preseason camp.
Yeah, talk about this staff that you brought in with you. Lots of guys with lots of experience at a lot of different places. I feel like I'm using the word a lot. Talk about their experience and what they're going to bring to Buffalo just day one, ground running.
Well, the first thing I would say is that I did retain some coaches from the previous staff, and that was, I would say, a very thoughtful decision to do so because I tried to spend as much time around those guys that first week or so I was there and getting to know them and how would they fit with my vision for the program and the type of culture that we want to build. And what I learned was that they all really love it at Buffalo, really enjoy living there and working with these players, and feel like you can win at Buffalo. And that was something that was very consistent with all of them. And as I sat and met with the players that first week, I interviewed all 87 guys that were on the team at that point, and it was very clear to me that they felt strongly about some of those coaches. So I did retain some guys. Dave Patnode, who I alluded to earlier, had actually just gotten hired a couple weeks before the head coaching change. And Dave and I go back to the mid-'90s, the start of our relationship, and never worked together, but have been in a lot of the same circles and have spent a lot of time together. Our families had actually met each other multiple times. So the fact that he had just gotten to Buffalo, there was a lot of comfort for me that here's a guy who's coached quarterbacks and coordinated offenses for upwards of 30 years, and he was already there. A lot of the new coaches are guys that I had crossed paths with at other places.
Okay.
So Adam Morris was a captain for me at Ball State.
Yes.
And a guy that I've kept in touch with since he graduated. Brian Doherty was a grad assistant for me at Ball State for 2 years. Joe Bowen, who's our defensive coordinator, was a grad assistant for us at South Carolina. Caleb Haynes, our wide receivers coach, was a grad assistant for us at Rice. Tyler Hancock was a quality control coach for us at Maryland when I was there. So a lot of these new coaches that I've brought in have all worked with me before. I had great comfort level with them. Even our director of football operations, who's a dynamic female, Juliana Przelski, was a student assistant for us at Maryland, who then ended up down at Mississippi State working for another guy that was with us at Maryland. So even some of the support staff that we've brought in are people that I have a lot of familiarity with.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got quite a few connections all over the country here.
Well, and it's the most beautiful thing about college athletics to me is the relationships, and that's for me probably the greatest joy that I get out of doing this is the people you meet and the relationships you build and working with these folks. So the fact that these folks were all interested in becoming a part of this journey with me means a lot.
Sure. You mentioned kind of some of the defensive stuff. A lot of defensive talent coming back. Marcus Fuqua, George Wolo, you've got Charles McCarthrand, like just some really key contributors. Anybody else that you're really kind of keeping an eye on or that we as fans at home should be keeping our eye on?
Well, I think you touched on something that's really pertinent, and that is that we do have good experience and in some spots some really good depth on defense. I would not have said depth coming out of spring ball, but thanks to one of the good things about the transfer portal is that we were able to pick up some pieces, one of which is a familiar face to Buffalo, and that's Sean Dolak coming back. And he's certainly been a very mature presence and a guy who's very smart and very hardworking and has sort of reacclimated himself quickly. But Red Murdoch has also been a great leader on our defense, had an outstanding spring. There's another linebacker named Deion Crawford who we think has got a very, very bright future ahead of him and will likely play a lot of football for us. But you mentioned George Wolo on the D-line. We do have good depth in the interior part of our defensive line and picked up a couple guys out of the portal that I think will give us a lot of depth and competition at defensive end. And then in the secondary, we're still trying to figure out who some of our best pieces are back there. But there's a good group of guys that have played some football before.
Cool. I can get on board with that. Cameron Carson, the potential starter to take over kicking duties for Alex McNulty. Any other kind of big transfer for special teams anybody should keep an eye on?
Ethan Duane is a punter who came in from Old Dominion.
Okay.
He's an Australian, and he's a wonderful guy, super mature, very good athlete. And Ethan had some ups and downs in his career at Old Dominion, and he's excited to get another opportunity. He's fit in very well with our team, been very well received. Upton Belenfant is a kicker from Alabama who is originally from Tennessee that I recruited a little bit while I was at South Carolina. And he was a backup at Alabama and came to Buffalo in hopes of getting an opportunity for more playing time.
Okay.
And he's got a strong leg, and we're anxious to see what he can do.
Awesome. Non-con games. Just talk about this going to Mizzou and then at UConn.
Let's not skip over Lafayette.
Okay, we won't skip over
yeah,
them.
Well, you're talking to a guy who spent a good bit of his career in the FCS and has a lot of respect for good FCS programs. And Lafayette went 9-3 last year and made it to the FCS playoffs, almost knocked off Delaware in the first round, won the Patriot League, beat Holy Cross and some other good teams, Fordham and so forth. And spending 8 years of my career at Lehigh, when you bring up the word Lafayette, what's left of the hair on my head tends to stand up. So we're very aware of Lafayette, and to me it doesn't matter who you're playing. Your first game is always real important, that you're getting off to a good start and coming out of the gate well prepared. So a little bit of facetiousness there in my comments, but I do respect the heck out of Lafayette and do expect that our team, anywhere I've been in all my years, whether it's a head coach or special teams coordinator, playing well in the first game is ultra important to me. You did mention, I think, Missouri, which is obviously a big opportunity for us. Missouri's become a top 10 program and a team that I played against the last 3 years at South Carolina. Think very highly of where that program has come. So obviously that'll be a big challenge on the road. And then UMass at home, which will be starting to get used to playing on a yearly basis. As they join the league the following year, and then going down to Connecticut, which, for us being the eastern footprint of the league, we do cross over quite a bit with Connecticut from a recruiting standpoint, so that'll be a great opportunity for us to go play them.
Where do you stand on the USC versus South Carolina debate?
In terms of,
being called USC.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I will say this: there's only, I know there's a couple other schools that are called the Gamecocks too, right? We played Jacksonville State last year. It was Gamecocks against Gamecocks. South Carolina or USC, whatever you want to call it, Columbia is a special place. Wonderful people. As loyal as can be, and the atmosphere in Williams-Brice Stadium is special, and I'm just very grateful that I had the opportunity to coach there. I don't think there would have been a better place in the country for me to do what I did, being a special teams coach, working for the son of Frank Beamer, who supported me, and some of the things we were able to accomplish there the last 3 years were very special.
That's awesome. And then my last one for you, make this a fun one. Best wing spot in Buffalo. I had wings with Coach Becky Burke last football season.
Well, first of all, Becky's wonderful.
Oh, she's a gem.
I've really enjoyed getting to know her. I love her energy and her focus. So I will tell you that I have been – so my family didn't move until just recently. Okay. So the first basically 5 months that I was in Buffalo, I was there first staying at the Marriott and then at an off-campus apartment. So I was eating out quite a bit, and I did get around to my fair share of wings joints, and they're all very good. Obviously the Anchor Bar is where it all started. Elmo's, which is really close to our campus, does a phenomenal job. Bar Bill is actually very close to where I live now, out in Clarence, and I'm very fond of their wings as well. I know there's 6 or 8 that I have not gotten to yet that other people absolutely rave about. But I will say this. There's an Italian restaurant in Clarence called Filetta's,
okay,
where the chicken parm and all the Italian favorites. You can get a great steak there. The owners are wonderful. The customers are a lot of fun. It's almost like Cheers meets an Italian restaurant type atmosphere. But their wings are right up there at very, very high on the list. And they have a poppy seed dressing that they put on their salads.
Okay. And
somehow they incorporate that into the wings.
Oh, that sounds so good.
And it's fabulous. That's kind of probably coming out of left field.
Yeah, a little bit.
But you got to try Filetta's wings as well.
I will put that on the list next time I'm in Buffalo. When we were there with Becky Burke, she took us to Elmo's. And
Becky's a smart lady.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Good basketball coach, too.
No question.
But, Coach, that's going to do it for me. Do you have any other tidbits, anything for the fans at home, anybody listening?
No, just I'm very excited to be back, grateful to be back, and this is a great league. We have a niche here on so many different levels. We're trying to do things the right way and still be a part of Division I athletics, and a uniqueness about us with the midweek games and the parity in the league, and so I'm just excited to be a part of that again.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Coach, thank you for taking time today to talk, and looking forward to seeing Buffalo in action this fall.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.